So would you say that the ideology of God being a man in the sky, basically God being external, rather than God being us, is to keep the collective in a state of dependence, to fuel the system and just fuel that show must go on?
Exactly. I think whoever is in charge of the system gets
Yeah.
to dictate your God, gets to dictate who God is, because God is not a man. It's not possible. That is a lie. But
True.
the people in charge of the system, not in charge per se, the people that have forcefully hijacked the system, definitely have an incentive to ensure that the concept of divinity in the collective psyche
Yeah.
is rooted in what they want, in who they are. Because what do you mean the male god happens to just have some very narcissistic, I mean, according to Abrahamic religions, very narcissistic
Yeah.
traits, like your dad treated you that way, you probably be in therapy. And then that same God is the just and kind and fair God. And then the God that doesn't make mistakes decided to send a son to come and erase.
It's not mistakes.
Like, it's such an incompetent God. If that is the idea of God, I mean, to be honest, if that is God within the status quo, within the patriarchy, within that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense that God will be a small, narcissistic, incompetent, jealous, ego, fragile ego thing that just gets mad at every little thing and is watching people fuck, and he hates it when people fuck. But abandon people that were slaves for years and abandon people that are in wars but just don't fuck. God hates it when you fuck. I don't know why I just saying that.
I don't think that everyone understood their inherent spiritual powers and gifts, systems would crash. Systems
Yeah,
would,
they
because
absolutely will.
whether we know it or not, our dependence fuels something
Within the
that,
status quo,
yeah, our
exactly.
dependence gives something life. And
Yes.
that's why our dependence forms egregores. Egregores are thought forms that are fueled by the energy of the collective, basically a psychic entity. And most of the time, when we create these egregores, we in turn, fuel us. So it's a psychic dance. You have yourself creating God with God in you while being God, and God is creating you simultaneously. So when human beings pour their focus and energy and intention into something, it creates a psychic entity, it creates an egregore. The system needs its egregore. So when you're dependent on these thought forms that have inherently been created by the system over time, you are fueling something that persists because of your energy. Meanwhile, you call it your God, you call it your deity, but it is simultaneously being fueled as you by you as much as you are being fueled by it. Yeah, so that is what an egregore is. I like these systems from their formation, right from time and everything. They are designed in a way that just don't bring your questions here.
Yeah.
Just follow the way it has been done.
Exactly.
Because like everything has been designed already.
To
Like
keep
people don't
certain
even know
people in power.
people don't
That's
even know
what,
that
yeah.
it is running already in the background.
Exactly.
Like
See, a lot of that's where a lot of us operate from our subconscious, and our subconscious minds are filled with some fucking bullshit. There's some things I'll be doing. I'll be going about my day and think something, and I'll have to pause and be like, where did that thought come from? Because why are we thinking like that? And then I have to unpack it. But that's what people who get the chance to pause. Capitalism has ensured people don't get the chance to pause. And then that's what people get the chance to question. Religion has ensured that people don't question. So when you join all the systems that make up the current world together, you get an unthinking person, a zombie, because basically.
Like, you take people, let me say it's somebody who is like 20 years has gone throughout their life, not even thinking that questions are possible, and then you get lost again in, let me say, religion for like 20 years of your life. That's like 40 years gone in a non-thinking dimension.
Exactly.
Just moving like a zombie.
And most of the time, before you come out of it, something has to happen that will shatter that reality so much that you have no choice but to take a step back. For a lot of people who do not want to think for themselves, it's so easy to follow a trend. It's so easy it just, to be fair, humanity likes things easy. We like to have a swell, jolly, good, simple time. And what will give you a swell, jolly, good, simple time as much as just going with the status quo and being rewarded? That's why.
Oh, because there are rewards.
There are rewards in place. There are rewards, but
things
there are
you have been made to think are
exactly
rewards.
No, I think that there are rewards in place within the system. I think that most of the time, the people that go after that reward do not mind the sacrifice. They do not mind what they have to give up for that reward. So if I have to give up my autonomy, that's fine. as long as I get $1 million. If I have to not give a fuck about asking questions, that's fine. But the thing is, there are certain people who, number one, give a fuck about things like their sovereignty and their autonomy. It's important to them. And the people that don't give a fuck usually think those people are stupid. And number two, there are people that, unfortunately, regardless of how much they try, that system is just going to kick them out because it can smell when you're just not all the way there.
Back to people giving up their autonomy, because they think the price is going to be worth it. Do you know that I figured that most times it actually ends up worse?
Walk me through your thought process.
Like, some persons have the idea and the ideology that, okay, like, I can give up my power, at least it's going to give me this, it's going to give me that, this is going to come my way. But most times it doesn't work like that. So most times you end up giving up your power for something you have to heal from, or a lesson, or something you have to almost kill yourself.
That's because you do not inherently belong within that status quo.
Yeah.
That is why disruptors exist. That's why alchemists exist. Those are the people that go through that. The system is designed to reward zombies. So the fact that you have the capacity to even, you question small, like your brain, you paused a little to be like, why? The day you ask that why, you have signaled to the system that you have the capacity for more. You have the capacity to become a disruptor. You have the capacity to think for yourself. I promise you, when you absolutely do not have that capacity and you just go as they told you to, reward you in certain ways. Not always by, I think when we say reward, we think financial reward. But I think even the, it's not comfort for us because we do not exist in that reality. It is comfort for them.
And I also think that the ideology that God is a masculine energy is also in place as a check. Meaning, I also think that, to me, God is feminine. If everybody in the world like had that ideology, I think society would be more welcoming of questions and interactions centered around like this energy. Because God being masculine is like God being a man. You can't ask a man, like growing up, we're trained, me, you don't ask your dad questions all the time. You're supposed to just assume that, okay, it's your dad, at least he has it figured out to an extent. But God being feminine means like there's a close relationship and interaction that the world doesn't want us to have with the divine. You don't feel close enough to.
There's a distance. That's the thing. The patriarchy owns the Abrahamic religions, owns religion, owns organized religions. Because I've been talking about this book a lot. I hope everybody reads it. It's such a beautiful book. When God Was a Woman by Merlin Stone. I've talked about that book so much. I was telling you about how initially, when we were as human beings, the first god of the, what do they call them? The Paleolithic people. Check that. I'll write it down or something. Prehistoric people, their concept of God, according to this book I was reading anthropologically, definitely would have been a woman. Because you come into this world, you see this woman, once in a while she bleeds, then she takes in, and then she's birthing babies. I think the oldest sculpture ever was the sculpture of a woman that does, I don't know if you've seen it before, she's full figured. It made sense that the concept of divinity was rooted in where you came out from. That's why I wrote that substack where I was like, if the world is made up of, if Earth is made up of mothers and their children, then the patriarchy is a bumbling toddler. Because Earth is truly made up of mothers and their children. So the perversion of divinity that has occurred within Abrahamic religions was designed to support the patriarchy. Is womb envy. It's the concept of patriarchy and the concept of divinity being a he is born from envy. It's born from the fact that men have egos that are fragile but very undeserving. But it makes a lot of sense that it would have a god that is a man and that everybody needs to fear and that says this is it and you must not ask questions. But it's so fucking bad at his job. It makes so much sense because if you begin to understand the concept of divinity, I call it the divine matriarch. If you begin to understand the concept of divinity as something, I wouldn't even say feminine. I attribute both masculinity and femininity to women. The most masculine people I have met are women. The most feminine people I have met are women. Whatever is happening with all those other people, I don't care about it. They don't exist in my world. But yeah, when you begin to understand the concept of divine matriarch, as the divine mother,
Yeah.
not as a counterpart to some divine patriarch, because that is our son.
Unmannered, ill-mannered son.
I'm telling you. So when people begin to understand the concept of divinity as something inherently matriarchal, as God as woman, God as, I wouldn't even say she, because I think that God transcends she in that, in the same way I think the matriarchy transcends she, in the same way I think the matriarchy transcends our current understanding of what power can look like in the hands of a woman.